This episode of the Citadel Cafe is brought to you by listeners like you. Visit patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe to find out how you can become a patron and help make this show possible. This is the Citadel Cafe, episode number 502 for Wednesday, February 18th, 2026. My name is Joel Duggan, and the Citadel Cafe is where my friends and I hang out to talk about the geeky stuff that we're into. The podcast is available on all major podcasting platforms, including YouTube. If you're enjoying the show, please consider subscribing wherever you're listening. Joining me, as usual, Stephen is here. You can find him at Stephen ESC on all of the social media that matters. Good evening, sir.
Good evening to you. How's it going?
Doughy. Both personally and in my environment. I am doughy. I am also around dough. The sourdough experience has continued, and I don't really think about it that much as something geeky, but the more TikTok stuff I see and the more time I spend watching people explain baker's ratios and solid starters versus regular starters, there are some real sourdough nerds out there, and it's really interesting because there's a bit of science to it, obviously, with the way that fermentation works and stuff. But I got better at it over the month and then relapsed and got worse at it, and I don't know what happened. I don't think anything went wrong with the starter. That was performing fine, but we did have some big swings in weather, and I do find that temperature and humidity around here really affect it. For folks that don't know, we're at sea level, and even in the wintertime, there's these big pitches from minus 5 and relatively decent humidity to minus 12 and 15 Celsius and zero humidity. So not zero, it's never zero here, but it's lower than normal. So that has affected some things. So rather than relying on timing, I've had to quickly adjust to relying on the art part of the science, which is like looking and touching something and going like, yeah, that's ready. And I don't know. I don't have years of experience. I've got 6 weeks of experience with sourdough. So I've had to try and hone things in, which I think I've gotten down to. At least I know I'm never going to underproof another loaf. I only did that once, and I think I came close to it one more time, but I definitely overproof before I underproof, which is good because overproofing just means it's going to be a little bit bubbly and more airy and not gummy or tough or anything like that. So you err on the side of overdoing it, and if you push it too far, you can always just make focaccia, so that's fine. I did have a few variables I wanted to change, and the problem is that I get honed in on something like this and I start to get a lot of information, and then I think, oh well, these are all things I want to try. The tough part is changing just one variable at a time as opposed to 2 or 3. Because then if something goes well, you're like, well, great. Which one was it? Was it all 3? Was it the first one? Like, which change made the difference? So I've never made a loaf that I didn't eat. Like it's good bread. It's tasty. It works out great for grilled cheese and toast in the mornings and stuff. But I've failed a couple times on like scoring, and sometimes the crumb was a little bit hard. I definitely get a big ear and a big rise. I don't necessarily love a big ear on a sourdough bread. Like, it looks great, but it's really impractical to cut. I end up cutting it off about halfway through the week. And just like, I'm tired of sawing through this part. I can just cut it off and have a much easier time cutting the loaf of bread for slices. Because I have a nice knife, but I have a hand knife. I don't have like a rotary knife that you see online and stuff like that. But it's going pretty well. And the thing that I changed just last night, I decided to try a stiff starter. And for anybody that doesn't know, usually you feed your starter 1 to 1 to 1. So starter to flour to water is all the same ratio. So if you've got 15 grams of starter, when you feed it, you do 15 grams of flour and 15 grams of water. A stiff starter is, as it sounds, more flour, less water. So you might do like a 1-5-3 starter, flour, water. And it ends up being a much stiffer, more like a dough than something that's more like a liquid. And it rose crazy in the jar. So I thought, all right, well, that's good. Like that's sounds like a good way to go. And so today was the first time that I used the stiff starter in a loaf. And I still think I overproofed it by a hair. I think it speeds up, as advertised, it speeds up the fermentation process. But I think, unfortunately, it also narrows your window. Like there's a window between it's ready to go and overproofed. And I feel like I have a bigger window with a 1-to-1 starter, whereas the 153, the window is maybe narrower. The advantage is that it doesn't take you all afternoon to ferment your dough. Like it's done shortly after you're done your folds. You can have it ready. I think it was probably ready in about 90 minutes, and I gave it 2 hours plus a bench rest. So I might have overdone it, but I find that I'm just so timid of underproofing, which is really not ruining a loaf of bread, but it's not the best. So I tend to push it just a little bit too far. So what I should have done tonight, I think, was not left it resting for 30 minutes. I should have just taken it out of the bowl, let it rest for like 5 minutes, and then shape it. But the extra 30 minutes, it actually pushed it, I think, a little bit farther. But it felt pretty good. It was easier to shape than it has been in the past, and we'll see how it goes. So I've been digging into all of that. It's really fun to have something that is both science and art, cooking related, obviously, because I like to cook. Obviously, something that I'm not good enough at to either share or give away. Like it's just nice to not have something that I want to turn into content. You know, like I'm not even posting this on Instagram. Like I just don't. It's just nice to not to have that pressure of like sharing it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, I've sent pictures to friends, but it's nice to kind of have that, and it's also nice to. I haven't bought bread at the grocery store since before Christmas. Like I haven't needed to, which is cool. Yeah. I don't know if it's cost effective because when you take account all the time I spend doing this, like it's a lot longer in terms of my day than the $3 I spend on a loaf of bread twice a week.
Yeah, but if it's something that you're investing the time and getting to know it, it becomes like, this isn't meant as a dig at you, but anyone who gets into sourdough loves to talk about being into sourdough as well, because it's a fairly involved thing, and like you said, it's a science. So you have to research it and get to know it, and can't think of a better way to say it right now, but like you get intimate with the process so that you can make the bread the way you want to. So I think even though there's a ton of time spent on it by comparison, it's like you've got the starter that's like your baby sitting, the baby you have to take care of sitting on your counter. So it's not. Yeah, it's a thing that if you enjoy it, you're just involved in it. It's a cool thing. So
I got that way about barbecue as well. Like when I first started smoking on the barbecue, like I had the timing and it took a while to get better at it, to just like not have to worry about it. But I find that I'm better now. One of the things I definitely have gained is the when I need to bake and what I need to do and what days I need to do it on, because I really don't feel like I can get to the gym on the days that I need to have dough rising on my counter. Apparently you can put things in the fridge to stop them and slow them down, but I haven't really gotten a knack for just feeling out when I can do that. So I haven't really trusted to see if that would really help or not. Because I get two schools of thought. I've definitely heard that like people that will do their second rise in the fridge overnight or for 48 hours or more to get like a really sour loaf, which I don't want. Like I like sourdough and I like sourdough, but for every day, I don't necessarily want that. And so I only rest it in the fridge overnight, usually 8 hours. And the bulk fermentation, I've seen people say, oh, you can do it in the fridge. It's like, but can you? Because I thought that in the fridge, it stopped completely. I thought the yeast just became dormant, but maybe it has to be in the fridge for a certain length of time. I haven't quite dug into that. Most of the information I've been getting has been on very reliable, but short form TikTok channels, as opposed to watching a 20-minute YouTube video from someone about it. So that's probably next. But right now, like I said, I'm trying to hone in on the variables and kind of go there. But it's fun. Like it's a cool experience, and I mean, I get to eat my rewards, so win-win. Except for I have to go to the gym more because, like, poke poke belly. Just doughy is an understatement for sure. So what have you been consumed by over the last month?
Oh man, every once in a while I feel like this segment should be like, what shiny new thing has caught Steven's attention for the month? Because it's always like, I found a new thing. I found a new thing. Guess what? I found a new thing. So I've been just sort of recently become obsessed with this. I feel like it's this Swiss Army of a note-taking app called Obsidian. So it's, from what I gather, primarily a note-taking app at the beginning, but there are a lot of sort of official plugins and user-made plugins that so essentially have been tested and have found their way into the app. Like you can load them right in through the app. So there are a ton of them out there, but there's only a select few that have sort of made it into this curated set of plugins. And I used to use Apple Notes, and then there's something about it that just felt a little bit off. Like it just didn't like the look, and I found the folder nesting was just not the way I wanted it to work. Then I found another app called Bear, which I actually quite liked, but it has no folder system at all. It's only based on tags, and that was okay, and it felt fine, but it still didn't feel like exactly what I wanted to. So I went back to Apple Notes because it was free and I didn't have to pay, and it synced through all my applications. But my eldest son mentioned Obsidian a while ago, but it just didn't quite fit. It felt off. It was an earlier version of it, and I'm not sure if I was not using the right plugins or whatever. It just didn't quite fit. But then I decided to give it a go again, and I found a couple of plugins that make it really work well. So it's a combination of the folder system and tag system. So it's just like, it's that sweet spot between the two. And like I'm a bit of a hobby writer. Like I've got some novels that I've started, children's books that I've started. I've started a bunch of things, but not completed anything yet. And there are some plugins that have allowed me to make this my main writing application now. Like, so there's Scrivener, which has been sort of long touted as one of the best writing apps out there, and it's fantastic and it's crazy feature rich. But version 3 came out in November of 2017, I think it was, and it's on version 3.5. So great that you haven't had to pay for a new application in like 9 years, but it just doesn't feel like it's fresh. And the syncing with iOS apps, it's through Dropbox, and it's always felt a little bit janky. So then I switched to another app called Ulysses that I liked, but then it's subscription based, and I don't know. It's felt like things have worked, but not as well as I would have liked, and so there felt like there's this more of this chore aspect to it. And then Scrivener and Ulysses both have proprietary file formats, which has been fine as long as you continue using the application, but you have to continue to use the application. You can't just go, oh, I'm done with Scrivener, I'm going to just move my stuff over here. You have to just copy and paste all of the chapters individually or export them all as different files. But Obsidian uses a .md file, which is a markdown file, and like it's like for bold, you would just put essentially an asterisk before it, an asterisk after, and the text is bold, and that's it. And it's those characters are included in the text, so you can take it from any markdown application you want to any other one. You can view it in a web browser. You can open it in a web coding text editor kind of thing. It's almost like a .txt file in terms of how, I was going to say ubiquitous, but I'm not sure if I'm smart enough to know if that's the right word use or not. But, it's like an RTF file or a TXT file. You can open it in almost any text-based application. So it's even though it's not as feature rich as the other two apps, the fact that I can like the files don't exist online in a web writing app, and they exist on my machine, and I can basically take it from Obsidian to anything else I want to down the road. And it's just I'm a little I just realized I just gushed about this application that I've just recently found, but it feels like it's just I'm shocked at how it became everything I needed it to be fairly quickly, which is pretty impressive.
Was it difficult to get your stuff out of Scrivener into Obsidian?
Well, I had gone from a Scrivener to Ulysses, and Ulysses, I forgot to mention, Ulysses uses Markdown to a degree, but it has some proprietary functionality in it that then requires the file to be saved as a .ulysses file, and they're saved on your machine, but they're buried far into the Ulysses preferences file. Like you have to go into a folder, and then and look for them, and they're just. And I tried to find other applications that could open them up. Like I tried to bring them into a regular Markdown application, and it just wouldn't work. So it was not too bad because there's a way you can export from Ulysses to a Markdown file fairly easily because it uses the same lingo. And then I just had to do a bit of formatting, cleanup around what Ulysses sort of custom functionality code snippets were, and then beyond that, it was actually pretty easy. And now it's great. Obsidian's fantastic. You can add a plugin to sort of make Ulysses a wiki type document. So if you wanted to keep track of, like for my writing, if I wanted to, I could create another vault that is specifically for characters, and it would have like a character image, age, profile, date of birth, and everything, and have it not look like a novel at all. But I could have it open next to my novel one that has a completely different look to it. Like every vault has its own set of plugins, so you could create. Like I've created one that's for notes that has that folder and tag structure I was talking about. I've created one for writing that uses a different font that I like, that feels more like a novel, that has different spacing and text spacing, paragraph spacing, all that stuff. And then I've got another one that I'm testing for sort of just language-based things. And they all have a different structure and a different look, and it's all the same application. So it's really kind of pleasantly surprised me how this one application is so versatile. So it's great.
That sounds awesome. I still use Notes, but I've also been expanding to use all the new features that Notes has in the last couple of years and really like them. But I don't use it for creative writing. I use it for notes. I use it for recipes, podcast notes, templates, keeping track of sourdough stuff. Like it's very nice that I can put things in folders, that I can lock some notes, that I can refer to them, that I can search for notes. Like one of my favorite things about my notes is that I can look up Christmas gifts that I've given to family members from like 6 years ago and just like go through the list of like, what bottles of wine have I given Dad and Phyllis in the last 6 years? And just like, they're still getting a bottle of wine. I just don't want to get them the exact same one I got them last year. So right. I go back to like, oh, they won't remember the one from 2019. I'll get them that one. Also, sidebar, when you said 2017 was 9 years ago, I was like, no. Then I did the math and I was like, shit, it was.
Well, I guess technically crazy. 8.5 because I said November. But yeah, it blew my mind when I looked and I'm like, wow, that is
woof.
That version has been around for a long time. And I mean, it goes to show that it is a great application.
Yes.
But,
yeah.
And I think if the sync between the regular desktop application and the iOS version felt like they almost feel like two different applications with a weird Dropbox sync between the two. I probably would have stayed with Scrivener because it is that good of an application, but I find I do a lot of writing snippets and things while I'm on the bus or the ferry because I'm sitting there and I figure, well, might as well be a bit creative, and I'll hammer it out there. So the fact that I can use, and so I use Obsidian and I can sync through iCloud, so it's available on iPad, phone, and computer, so on all the things. So then that's one of the things I did like about Notes, and I kept coming back to it because it was like Apple Notes, because it's available on all the devices as well. It had that, and it's easy to add to Notes from almost anywhere in any of the interfaces as well.
Yeah, and
so for me, Notes is still would have been my second choice, but Obsidian is kind of it's proving to be even though it's not as, I guess, easy to get to for note writing as the Notes app is, I find I personally enjoy the experience better.
That's why I use Notes, is because it goes across the devices. And because now with my second iPad Pro, I have the keyboard with it. And so I can not be at the computer, not be in the studio, not feel like I'm in the office, be 6 feet away at the kitchen table. But on an iPad, taking notes about recipes, I feel it's recreation. I don't feel like I'm working.
Right.
And I can type way faster on a keyboard than I can my tiny iPhone 12. So I definitely enjoy the Notes app in that way. I do find sometimes that the iPad will be a little bit slow to sync. And I don't know whether that's just I happen to open it up at the time of day when it has not yet synced with the phone. It could also be the fact that I'm coming home from the gym with notes on my phone and I'm trying to, copy them into a journal at home or whatever. and I still can't see them on the iPad because I haven't loaded yet. It doesn't take very long, but sometimes when you want to do something and it normally is seamless, when you actually sit down and want it to happen, if it takes 10 seconds, it feels like an eon. You're just like, why is it not synced already? It feels strange. I've been home for 20 minutes. But the other thing that I find restrictive about Apple Notes, which I found out in the fall or the summer, when AI was first becoming a big part of the news, and I was trying to look into agents and trying to figure out if I could write my own little app using like code assist with ChatGPT and stuff to pull my notes from the gym, because I didn't want to change how I logged my workouts, and just pull the information and put it into a spreadsheet, so that at the end of 6 months or a year, I could look back and say like, oh, well, how much have I lifted? How much have I increased my, my weights? Like how many times did I go to the gym? Just stuff like that to be able to grab data. And I could not figure it out, because even though at the time the LLMs were saying that it was possible, there was a lot of hurdles from the notes being locked as an Apple app, as opposed to if I was taking notes in a Google Doc or whatever.
Oh,
so
interesting.
yeah, one of the things was to try and copy and paste it into a Google Doc. Like there's all these workarounds. I mean, at the time the LLMs were really frustrating and they would take you in circles. They might still do. I actually stopped pursuing the application because I was just like, you know what? I'm going to copy them into my journal at home and just, flip back through it when I need to. So it's not the end of the world, but I was frustrated that I couldn't figure it out. And part of it was because the initial, I'm not sure what, the initial interface that I was using that I did not want to change was a pain to try and tap into. The API for the notes was not accessible as I was hoping it would be, without having to pay for something, right? Which I didn't want to do. I felt like I should be able to write this for free. There was a workaround that someone had suggested, I think either in chat or in Discord, where I could use like a shortcut. So it wouldn't be completely automatic, but I could totally like use a shortcut in Apple to do it. But I don't find the shortcuts all that reliable. I find that they sometimes work and they sometimes don't, despite the fact that it's doing the same thing every time you press it. One of the things that I find
them a bit convoluted to set up sometimes too.
Yeah, especially with my Go-V lights, which is how I control the lights in my studio and several of the lights in the house. And they work very well with Alexa, which is the speaker that I have in the living room. But they don't work so well with Siri. It takes a long time for something to happen. I say long, it's a couple seconds, but it doesn't feel like you're controlling the lights. It feels like you're going through a delayed spoken interface. Now, I just got the new Siri today when I updated my phone, so we'll see if that improves it. But the biggest issue that I have is that I had set up a bunch of things automatically. So like I stream every day at 9. I have all of my studio lights come on at 9. And on the days that I'm doing Minecraft, there's specific colors behind me that I want. So I set those up. And I switch the light that's in front of me to be white so I'm more lit when I'm on camera, all that kind of thing. The only thing I don't have on a timer is the big floodlight that I use, the big key light that I use. That's a remote control though, so it's pretty easy to turn on. But I told Shortcuts to not notify me. I don't need to know that this thing ran. The whole idea of me putting it as a timer to run in the background is to just do it. Do it every day at 8:30, half an hour before I stream. And every day, twice a day, when I have this automation set up, there's a giant, it's a third of my iPhone screen that comes up and says, successfully run your setup for this shortcut. It's like, thank you, iPhone. I know, I set it up. Why are you telling me every single day that you do this background thing when I've specifically said, don't do it? And I've said it in both ways that you can control notifications for that app, in-app, and on the settings on the iPhone, and it still doesn't. It's frustrating. So I could do it the other way around, which would be to use the Go-V application to set up timers and set up things like that. But the problem with the Go-V application is that it is rough. Like it's really tiny text and really convoluted. And once you set something up, you can get it to work. But then in like another 6 months, when you have a new light bulb and you want to set it up, you're like, oh God, how did I do this again? So I have to look up a YouTube tutorial like every single time I do it. It's that complicated. So I just have not really gone down that route yet. But it's a point of frustration when like I feel like because I just haven't really found the right way to do all this. I'm on the cusp of this all being very cool and very automated, but it's frustrating enough that it doesn't feel like it's all working. You know, like most of the stuff in my living room I can control with my voice, which is great. But I like even these little things like the Roku TV, since I added the soundbar, I can increase the volume by 1. If I increase the volume by 1, if I say, turn up the volume by 1, it increases it from 28 to 32. Like it goes in chunks of 4. It's weird. I don't know why. It's the same with the remote. Like it's not just a vocal thing. It's like when I use the remote, it also goes up in like chunks as opposed to the television that will just go up like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? And so I was watching something, probably Predators, which we'll talk about later today. I was watching that and I kept on having to turn up and then turn down the TV because it was just at that level on like a Saturday night where like 38 was great for most stuff, but then the big moments, like that's a little loud. It's getting late. Maybe I'll turn it down a little bit. And I mean, it was Saturday night. It's not a big deal, but I feel bad when like, if my coffee table kind of rattles, like that's a little loud. I don't need to be doing that.
Maybe,
in an apartment. Cause again, like it was a good movie, but there's moments where there's like jump scares or roars or explosions or things like that. And so I just had to have, I found for the dialogue, I had to have it up a little bit louder and then I had to turn it down for the other stuff. And so, and whereas if I could control it a little bit more fine tuned, I could probably just leave it and not have to worry about it. But anyway, discussion for a different day. But speaking of fine tuning and knobs, that was the first gag in the Mandalorian and Grogu trailer, which we weren't planning on talking about because we didn't know it was coming until it came out yesterday. So I do want to touch on this because this looks really fun. The Mandalorian release date is May 22nd of this year. That is, of course, the full-length movie that we are expecting. We talked about this briefly on 501 last month, but the second trailer has a little bit more story-wise, and I say that in air quotes because it's really not that deep. It seems to be, in a good way, more of what you would expect from Din Djarin. It feels like he's on a bounty or on several bounties, but it feels like those bounties are now going to cross over with more of the wider Star Wars universe. There is some stormtroopers that get their butt handed to them. There is some familiar locations. I want to say that one of the scenes where there's a bunch of ships taking off is from the same planet that Maz is on. I think she's in Tokodana Castle, is I think where they all go in episode 7 when Rey goes into the basement and finds the lightsaber. And there's some ships that launch out of something in this, and it feels very similar. So I kind of wonder whether this war that they're talking about in the Mandalorian trailer that they're trying to prevent is what eventually becomes the battle between the Resistance and the First Order. So, because the timeline is about right, because all of this happens post Return of the Jedi. It's between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens is when all the Mando stuff is happening. So I'm on board. There's some really cute moments with Grogu. There's a new Razor Crest, which we did see in the last trailer, which was a cool tease. There is a couple of shots, even some voice acting from Zeb, who is from Rebels, the animated show, which I'm excited to see in live action. And I didn't see any other real familiar faces outside of, I can't remember his name. There's another bounty hunter that has like a really large disc type hat, and I can't remember his name, but he was from the Clone Wars. I think he was from the Clone Wars. Okay. He might have been from Rebels as well. And everybody else, it's not so much that they're characters I recognize as they are archetypes I recognize. There's like an Imperial guy. There's the rebel kind of like Princess Leia vibe from Sigourney Weaver. There's stormtroopers, I think I mentioned. And then there's aliens that I recognize, like species that I recognize, like Hutts. And I don't know the name of it, but there's a scene near the end of the trailer where they're fighting something in an alley on a really dense city scene. And it is one of the aliens from the chessboard, in the Millennium Falcon, where they play the holographic chess thing. It's the long neck one, the long neck blue one, I think, or purple. You only get a quick view of it in that. And I saw the reaction from the Blindwave guys, and Eric on Blindwave said something that I think is really, really true. Whenever he watches a Mando trailer or a really poignant Mando episode. He really feels like Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are reaching into their toy bin and saying like, I want to play with this guy today. And they kind of grab like a figure, an action figure or an alien or something that they thought was cool from Star Wars when they were kids that was never part of the main story. And they're like, this is a serial offshoot. So like we can take these side alien characters and like turn them into events or scenes or encounters with Din Djarin and Grogu. And I'm on board. I think it looks good. I don't think they didn't reveal enough in the trailer to make it feel like, oh, they've told me everything.
Right.
So I'm good with that.
Yeah. I think that this trailer spoke more to me, I guess you could say, than the other ones. Or I just found like the first one was, I think I mentioned it to you and on the show before that if I hadn't seen The Mandalorian, the original trailer did not make me want to see that movie. Like there were some cool, sort of more traditional Star Wars related things in it, but other than that, there was nothing about it that made me want to go see it. It was too cutesy and little creatures making noises and I don't know. I felt it focused on the cutesy side of Grogu more than anything else. But this one felt like it was a solid teaser of what to expect, and I appreciate it. Like you said, they didn't give away a ton because, yeah, what's the point? I mean, every time it happens, what's the point of going to see a movie once the trailer has basically spilled the entire thing? But it's no, it was good, and I literally watched it right before recording this evening, so it's pretty fresh in mind. So yeah, no, it was good. I'm looking forward to it now. Before I was going to go see it because I had sort of dedicated the time to The Mandalorian, and I figured, well, given the quality of that show, this will probably be entertaining as well. But this trailer actually made me excited for it, so looking forward to it now.
Yeah, I feel the same. It has a unique Star Wars feel. Like it still feels like Mando, but it feels very Star Warsy, which is more than I can say about some of the other things that I've seen from Star Wars on Disney Plus in the last little while. And it's also a return to Star Wars to theaters. Like this is the first. I'm trying to remember when the last thing we did. Was Solo the last in theaters? And did Solo come out before Episode 9? Or was Episode 9 the most recent movie? I feel like Episode 9 was the last. Yeah,
me too. Hard to say though. But one thing that I thought was neat is this trailer shows Mando gets his helmet taken off. So we've got Pedro Pascal in the actual role in this, which is kind of neat, as opposed to just being this. It brings the more the human or person element into it, as opposed to just this figure behind a mask. I mean, the Mandalorian is cool in the mask and all that, but it'll be nice to actually see that side of him again. So
December 19th, December 20th, 2019 was The Rise of Skywalker.
2019.
Yeah, this particular release does not have. Oh, Solo was 2018. So yeah, so 2019 was the last feature film from Star Wars. Everything else has been on Disney Plus. Well, Mando would have started a long time ago. Like it's been a couple of years since Mando finished on stream, and it's been several years since it started. So I want to say 2020 or like close to the pandemic or something like that was when Mando started on Disney Plus. So yeah, that tracks. That makes sense.
Yeah, because we had Mando, then we had Boba Fett, and then I'm totally blanking on her name right now, but Ahsoka, yeah, like the other. So like all of that happened in between the beginning of Mando and the end of Mando. So
yeah, you forget. There's one other series in there that is forgettable as well, but it was the Acolyte was also in there.
Oh yeah, I actually didn't see that one. I was going to watch it, but on your recommendation, I skipped it.
Yeah, like, on my flaming review, you said maybe I'll pass. Yeah, no, it's well played. Well played.
I don't think he likes it.
Are you sure? I'm still mad. I'm still mad. Speaking of not liking things, we can move into what we have been watching. And I promise it's not going to be negative. Actually, we both liked the main discussion, but there was one that Stephen wants to dive a little bit into that he completed, but I did not because I fell off. So what did you think about Wonder Man?
Wonder Man? overall, I enjoyed the show. I think a fair bit. So it's a bit of a slow burn compared to your usual superhero movie because it's just the main character, Simon Williams, played by, and I apologize if I'm butchering the name, but Yahya Abdul Martin II. I think he's excellent in it. Like he's not necessarily like as you pointed out in conversations before this, not a super likable right away, but I think he played the character really really well. But it's like, and then you've got Ben Kingsley coming back as Trevor Slattery, aka the Mandarin, which and I think he's fantastic in that role, and not that he's particularly likable because they're both fairly self-centered at first, but they sort of grow over the course of the show and become like they're not really friends for the first little while. They're just sort of convenient acquaintances who sort of help each other out along the way, and then they kind of grow into a really solid friendship by the end of it. So it's I can get why you didn't sort of finish the entire thing, but overall I enjoyed it, and I felt like it ended in a really solid way for a miniseries one-off.
Yeah, I only watched the first 2.5 episodes. I actually fell off halfway through episode 3 and just was like, you know what? I'm just done. I sat down thinking I would watch episode 4 the following night to see if I could just keep going after talking with you about potentially watching it and talking about it here on the show. And then I realized that I had not finished the episode from the evening before, and I was like, "Oh, woof. Okay, look, you know what? Obviously, if I'm distracted enough that I'm on my phone or something, then like this is just not worth it for me." And to your point, I think it's the writing for the characters. I think they are designed that way, and that's why I don't like the show.
Yes.
Nothing about the performances. I think the performances were fine. Like I mean, the acting was good. I really quite enjoyed. I think her name was Janelle Jackson in the show. His agent, Simon's agent.
Oh yeah,
their exchanges were quite funny.
Quite funny.
Her handing his ass to him, I was just like, yes, please, because she says what you feel. Like she says what you're thinking. Yeah. Like, oh, for the love of God, just stop. But I found that I just have a real issue when I can't find someone or something in a show to latch onto and like. And I don't.
Well, you want to root for them too, right?
Yeah, like I don't like the characters. I don't want Simon to win. He doesn't deserve to win. You know what I mean? Like, so when I have that kind of a situation, I tend to fall off quite quickly. And no, they don't have to be a Boy Scout, but it's just not really something I can warm up to if I can't root for someone or something, right? I feel like in a world where there are a number of shows on a number of streaming services asking for my time and money, for me, I need to be drawn to something or someone to have that escape. And I just found that like with Simon, I was like, I think I've met and worked with people like this. Like, I don't want to, like, this is not what I need right now.
Yeah.
And because, and if it does grow and if there's any kind of arc, they didn't really push it to you in a miniseries. If I'm not seeing where this is going by episode 3, I'm kind of done, guys. Like I've got other things that are vying for my attention. A show that you and I both like that I turn to quite quickly is Shrinking. And if I see a new episode of that, it's like Wonder Who. Like I'm going to watch Shrinking and enjoy that. Right. But I find that I know personally, I am not an anti-hero guy. Like I liked the Deadpool movies, but I don't love them the way that some people do. Because I can't identify with Deadpool as like an anti-hero or amoral plot lines. They just don't really appeal to me. Like all those movies where like people thought that The Hangover was like the funniest thing in the world. I really didn't like the film. I can't stand that level of I can't say I enjoyed it either. Assholery, right? And I hated Seinfeld for the same reason. I know there's a lot of people out there that love it, and I disliked all of the characters in Seinfeld. They have no redeeming qualities that would make me like, yeah, I'd like to hang out with these people. Not at all. And so I was more of a Friends guy. Like that was my big show kind of in that era. So I know that there's a bit of it that's a personal thing, like this, that's subjectively something that I don't like. But I do feel like that it was a harder sell for Marvel and Disney Plus with Wonder Man.
For me, I felt like there was enough in the trailer to pique my interest because I really wanted they basically set it up so that, you know, he's a powered individual who's trying to hide his powers, and he really wants to land the role of the main character in Wonder Man. So for me, I was invested enough in that idea. I really wanted to see how that played out.
Mm-hmm.
I did find the first episode a little hard to watch. I'm not a fan of really uncomfortable situations, watching them play it on screen. And so if anyone's, this is a bit of a spoiler alert, but in the first episode, he lands a gig, and it's a small part in American Horror Story. And it gets in there, he asks some questions, and it sounds like the questions he's asking are great. And then he starts saying things like, well, you know, what's my character's motivation here? Or do you think that this is the right book to have on the desk? Because I feel like my character would read this book instead. And then you could see that the directors are starting to get impatient. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And they kept going and going and nitpicking everything, just trying to have it be perfect for the character's backstory that he had in his head. And eventually they just go, okay, the directors decided that we're going to go about this in a different way, and your scene's no longer needed, so that's a wrap for Simon. And that was like, it was brutal, and I felt so uncomfortable. Like, if anyone's watched The Amazing or The Marvelous Miss Maisel, there's a couple of times where she's bombing on stage, and I actually had to fast forward through them, because you know that 5-minute bit is just going to be super uncomfortable. So I felt like it wasn't a great start for me, because I thought, oh, I hope it's not like this through the entire thing. But I feel like it redeems itself because the two characters are just looking out for themselves at first, but then they both realize that they just both want to be actors. Like, that's all they want to do, and they want to be really good at it. And so there's a couple times where, you know, one of them seems to be getting knocked down a little bit by their friends and family, and then the other one goes and says, well, you know, it's actually not that easy. And then the same thing happens to the other one, and they can both fire quotes from different plays and movies back and forth to each other. So they sort of built this kindred relationship kind of between them, and it grows. And so, yeah, in the end, I feel like it landed well, but I can totally understand why you would have just, like, 2.5 episodes in, gone, maybe not.
There's a couple of lines from King Lear and other Shakespeare from Ben Kingsley that I was like, oh wow, okay, this was worth the 20 minutes to like hear that come out of him. So there were some moments, but there just wasn't enough of them for me to tie it together. But yeah, I know what you mean about that awkward stuff. That is the same reason why I could not get into The Studio, the comedy on Apple TV.
Oh yeah, I go back and forth on that. It's a bit much.
Yeah. There's something about the level of schmarm in Hollywood that comes out when Hollywood makes fun of itself. And it's almost like they overdo it to the point where, like, they're taking an awkward situation, and instead of keeping it as awkward and realistic, they dial it up to 11 to the point where it just feels unrealistic, even though I'm sure there's a kernel of truth in producers that micromanage and want to direct and get the one shot and like all this kind of stuff. And there was some technical stuff about The Studio that I thought was really well done, but there was just so much repetition and so much predictable. Like, not only is this predictable, like, I know this character is not going to grow and they're going to continue to act the exact same way, but they're acting in a way that's like nails on a chalkboard. And when you know that's coming,
good way to put it.
Like, when you know that's coming, it's just like you want to reach out and hold the person's hand and just be like, no, you're done. You're done. You know, and you can't, because of course it just,
here's a warm glass of milk. Yeah. Just leave them away.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's I couldn't get into that either. But I've said a number of times on this podcast before that I don't like awkward comedy. I much prefer a more structured comedy. But I have to say that sometimes Josh Johnson, who I would classify as like skirts the awkward comedy border, combined with like really well written social commentary, is somebody I really enjoy. I really, really like him. And so I'm not completely out of the awkward comedy stance, but he does stand up, which is different than awkward scripted, I think.
Yeah.
Because he can pull off the crowd, and he can, like, if the stammers and the awkwardness is really getting a laugh, he'll lean into it. But if it's not really going, he'll dial it back and he'll move on real quick. And so I don't find that happens in awkward films. I find that they poke the bear over and over and over until I throw my popcorn and I'm just like, okay, I'm done. Something that wasn't awkward, that could have been, that you and I have both watched, and I've been really looking forward to talking about this, is The Muppet Show.
Yes.
Speaking of Seth Rogen, he is the executive producer on The Muppet Show, returning to TV, to Disney Plus, as close to the original format as I could potentially remember. And I have the originals on DVD somewhere. Like, I've got them here.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, no, they're in like felt DVD boxes. That's how Muppety they are.
Ooh,
they're furry, and they're really good. And some of them are really strange because back in the 70s, Jim Henson did not just have celebrities on the show like Steve Martin. There was also like ballet dancers and opera singers and like people from the performing arts in the 70s that you would have no idea existed and were real artists in the sense that they were not part of mainstream consumer culture. Like, they were just, on stage at a time when, the internet and stuff just did not exist. So if you weren't in New York to go see this person, you would have no idea that they existed, right? Outside of maybe a review on the news or the newspaper. And so there were some people on the Muppet Show that you would just have no idea who they are. But they eventually had more celebrities on, and it got better as time went on. But I used to watch the Muppet Show. I'm not sure about you, because you're a little bit older than me, but I used to watch it in the evenings. It was it was in syndication. So it was part of my after dinner TV, like, block of time for me before I went to bed. It was on at like 7:30 or 8 o'clock or something like that before I was going to bed as like a 10-year-old. And I loved it. Like, I really enjoyed it because I was always drawing, because I knew about Disney and all that stuff. This was before Disney bought the Muppets. Jim Henson was just an extension of that kind of creativity. And fun little tidbit, I actually went as Jim Henson to a mock job fair when I was 10-ish as part of a school project. I even had a beaker puppet that I made myself out of a cardboard tube and some felt, and I had Mom help me with the sewing of like the hands and stuff. But he had coat hangers that were bent as just like they did in the Muppets. So like they went into the wrists, but then they bent and they created the elbows because of the way that the thing was shaped. And like I did really well with it, and it was really fun. And I actually ended up making puppets as like a hobby until I was like 12 or 13. Whenever I picked up the guitar, is about when I stopped making the puppets. I still have them in a box somewhere. I'm sure my mom did not throw them out. They're in
just felt ones?
Sock puppets. So, but they were like sock puppets on steroids, because I would like create cardboard cutouts for the mouths and styrofoam eyes and cut felt, and I had dragons, they had wings, and I had all this stuff figured out. It was all hot glued and sewn, and it was they turned out pretty well, I have to say. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, for a kid. It's funny. Like, I learned to sew so I could make puppets, and it served me, because like if a button falls off my pants or something, I can fix it. but that
it just looks like a stuffed frog. That's the problem.
Yeah, it looks like a Muppet button, but hey, yeah. No, but it was a cool hobby when I was a kid. So I have a real soft spot for the Muppets.
That's great.
Yeah, the Muppet Christmas Carol and the Muppet Family Christmas are essential holiday viewing. Like, those are really part of my identity as a Gen Xer. Like, that's really something that I really, really enjoy. So to see it come back is a special treat. I really hope that I think they called it a soft pilot. So it was meant as a one-off. It's a special. But the idea is, if it gets enough traction, they will potentially make more. I don't know if we're ever going to get a season. I kind of hope they treat it like some of the miniseries that you see from Marvel, like WandaVision or other things where there's just a limited number of episodes. I don't think they should or will go with like a 10 episode season. I kind of want them to do like, sets of 6 or whatever. Like, I rather go for quality over quantity, because you have to pick your guests carefully. The writing has to be spot on. And so far, and I'm curious to see what you think, I thought it was fantastic.
Oh, I loved it. And as soon as I found it was, I didn't really know what to expect, but I was excited for a Muppets show of some kind. And then when it started up, and I'm like, oh my goodness, they're like in the same set as before. I don't know if it was the same set, but Kermit's there behind the desk, and there's Scooter, and they've got the dress rooms upstairs, and then it just was all very, the childlike wonder in me was just super excited. And then as soon as the theme song started, I'm like, oh my God, here we go. This is so great. And then my sons were looking at me, and I'm singing along, knowing all the words. And so this is the original song, is it? Yep. Just kept singing along. It was so good.
I feel like they used either the original song or they remastered it or something. Like there's certainly enough like original stuff ahead of that. Like with all the Muppet voices being a little bit different, and like some of them are great, but like there's still, you can notice if you've been watching for as long as we have, that like they're different. So where the new stuff is. But then when they ran the credits and the main intro song, like I really kind of felt like they just pulled from the archive. Like I feel like they maybe just, ran it through some special software to make it look a little bit newer, because the way that they moved, the timing of everything, it really felt like it was the OG. Because that opening number, when there's a bunch of dancing monsters, like none of them are main characters. Maybe Sweetums, but that's it. So they could have easily just grabbed footage for some of it. And maybe that's what they did. Like maybe some bits of it are actually archival and the other bits are new, where they had to have them new. Like maybe the new sign or whatever. But yeah, I agree. I think the backstage was a little bit different, but it's still pretty solid. I would imagine that it's been reconstructed probably as accurately as they can. But I imagine with technology changing, there's a lot more things that are available to the puppeteers underneath the stage and that kind of stuff that make things a little bit easier. I felt like something that was different to me in my mind, I'd have to go back and check, but the transition zone between backstage and on stage felt different. It was like better lit.
They were definitely using different angles. Yeah, I don't think they showed the off stage area at all in the past. I could be wrong, but
they did, but it's really brief. And it's usually a tighter shot, because again, like it wasn't 16:9, right? Like it would have been 4:3.
That's true.
Right. Because I remember specifically some behind the curtain conversations between like Chris Reeves and Kermit, stuff like that. Like just before he goes on stage or just after he comes off stage, that kind of stuff. But when he's sitting there talking with Seth, there's more visible than I remember. And it could be just a lighting change. It could be all kinds of stuff. But I'd be very curious to see like an old Muppet Show. Like, I mean, you should come over. Maybe we'll pop a DVD and check them out, because it would be fun to kind of compare them, especially if they do another one. Like if they do another 2026 Muppet Show, I'd be curious to compare them. But I think they nailed the original sketch comedy format. I think that they nailed the guest for Sabrina Carpenter.
Yeah,
to have her as the featured guest star. Not only does she have the musical and the comedy chops and doesn't take herself too seriously, aka the Miss Piggy trademark jokes, which I thought were very funny, which I didn't realize until they're jokes, but they're not wrong either. She looks like, I mean, especially with the way they have her done up for the Muppet Show, but that's not so different from like some of the stage costumes that I've seen her in on social media.
Yeah.
Like, so she's got that level of like not taking herself too seriously, but her current fashion and style, big hair, a lot of makeup, kind of harkens back to the 70s a bit. So it was this really nice transition. It kind of felt like a bridge between like a Dolly Parton and a modern day Sabrina Carpenter.
Agreed.
I also really like her. I recently watched a couple of interviews with her and Seth Meyers, where he does like day drinking with some of his guests.
Right.
And she's really funny. And she was able to really let loose and kind of I felt like, I mean, she's always on camera, so there's probably a version of her that we're not getting, but she felt a lot more relaxed in that interview than she does when I've seen her on like on a couch or a chair, like on the Colbert Show, where she feels like she's cracking jokes that she's come up with beforehand. Whereas with Seth at the bar, she really kind of felt like they were just shooting the shit, right? So I really like her for that. I also thought that as a live stage performer, not just a recording artist, she has the choreography chops to play with the Muppets. Like all that felt very natural. Like she did a bar scene, she did a duet with Kermit. I think those were the only two things that she did. There was an opening number as well, but I don't remember what it was. It's been a week or two since I've seen it. And they all went very well. Like she didn't feel awkward. She was looking at the right places. And I think the only time that anything kind of stood out to me was some of the secondary Muppet characters, not necessarily in the Sabrina Carpenter scenes, but in some of the skits, the secondary characters moved a little funky, maybe a little bit stiff. Maybe the rat number was a little bit stiff, but I would imagine that part of that is that so many of these puppeteers are probably either too old to perform or have probably passed away. And so there's, as far as the extras go, there's probably a lot of new blood that are being trained up because there hasn't really been much for new Muppet stuff in a while. And so I was kind of giving it some grace there. I thought that they did really, really well.
I see what you're saying on that one, but maybe I'm just going to be mean and not giving them a ton of grace. So I noticed some stiffness as well, but a lot for when I was poking through IMDb, it sounds like, or it seems like a good number of the voice actors, or at least the primary ones, have also been like heavily involved in past like Muppet Show one-offs or Sesame Street, and like one of them's been in Sesame Street since the 90s. So and maybe you're hitting the nail on the head there with the secondary characters being a little bit stiffer.
I thought the main Muppets were fine.
Yeah, fair enough. I realized talking that through.
Like I felt that the movement on like Kermit and Fozzie and Rolf and Dr. Teeth, Statler and Waldorf, like all those guys felt pretty solid as far as their movement goes. It was more like the stiffer ones. Although like in a good example of something that's not too stiff was Pepe. So when Pepe was there, he's pretty current though. Like he's a newer Muppet. He's been on talk shows recently. He does other stuff. Like I feel because of that performer having performed Pepe for the entire life of that puppet, it always feels pretty solid, right? Especially when he's ad-libbing. So I thought that was pretty good. I thought that was one of the better skits actually.
Yeah, Bill Beretta voiced Pepe the King Prawn, and also voiced Rolf the dog, Dr. Teeth, and the Swedish chef in this episode. So it's he's been doing those characters for a number of years. It's pretty cool. Not that I knew any of the voice actors necessarily by name, other than the Frank Oz and Jim Henson of years gone by. But when I looked it up, it was pretty cool that Dave Goelz, probably messing up his name, but he was the original Gonzo and Dr. Bunsen Honeydew. So it was cool that they were able to bring him back. He was the voice in this as well. And I think he was the only original one that came back. The rest of the main characters have been doing the characters for a while. Like Eric Jacobson is his name, voiced Fozzie and Miss Piggy in this, and he nailed it. Like it felt very much like the original voice from back in the day. I felt like whoever was doing Kermit could have done a better job, because it's, Jim Henson always had that little bit of a kind of bit of this. It's almost like slightly nasally part to his voice. It was just kind of up higher in the nasal area, and it just felt this was just more of a spoken sound, and the energy was there, but the voice was slightly off for me. But a lot of the other characters were pretty good.
I will always find that the voice for Kermit is a little off, because I was so steeped in Jim Henson as a kid that like I kind of have his voice memorized. And even when Brian Henson, his son, took over and did the voice in the 90s and did the voice for Kermit in the Muppet Christmas Carol, I could still tell the difference. But what got me in the Muppet Christmas Carol wasn't the voice so much, because it was really close. I mean, obviously his son, he even sounds a bit like Jim, Brian does, but it was the repetitive little motions that Kermit does, like when he kind of looks like he's swallowing, or when he goes and kind of like hums to himself or grunts a little bit. I feel like that was overdone in Christmas Carol, and it stood off as like, oh, there's someone else doing the puppet. But that's just, it's such a subtle thing. It basically like like when you see someone that does an impression of Barack Obama, like he's got some things that he does with his voice and things that he says that people dial in to do the impression, but it's not, when they do the impression, they're doing the thing more often than Barack does the thing, so it feels a little bit
the character version of the.
Yeah, it feels a bit of it like a caricature. Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. But yeah, like I said, I really liked it. I did look it up just out of curiosity. Frank Oz is 81, and like that is it makes sense though that when you have Frank Oz, who originally voiced Miss Piggy, Fozzie Bear, Animal, Sam the Eagle, that you have the same person, Eric Jacobson, that is also voicing Piggy, Fozzie, Animal, Sam. Because it tracks, right? Like it makes the most sense. And because actually Rolf, Dr. Teeth, Swedish Chef, that was all originally Jim Henson. Because same with Ernie. So I don't know who does. Yeah, I don't know who does Ernie on the Sesame Street these days, but I haven't seen a clip from Sesame Street in so long that I don't know how those voices hold up. But yeah, I used to be able to catch a Jim Henson voiced Muppet or puppet in just about anything that they did. Even in Labyrinth, I would be able to just like, oh, that's Jim. Like I could pick it out because he would always have a very distinct kind of way of delivering either a high-pitched character or a low-pitched character or whatever. But anyway, highly recommend the Muppet Show. I think that it is a great thing to watch with the whole family. It's a lot of fun if you're someone that's in your late 30s or 40s that watched the show as a kid. Like it's definitely something to check out. Something that I watched on Saturday night, and then you happened to also watch either Saturday or Sunday. I can't remember. Predator Badlands.
It was funny because you sent me my wife had gotten home from work and she was just tired and she's like, I just want to watch something. I'm not sure what. And you had just sent me a text message not long before that was like, hey, I can't remember if we were going to talk about Predator Badlands or not, but I really needed something to watch last night, so put it on. Hope that's okay. And so then I just sort of looked over at my wife and said, what about Predator Badlands? And she goes, that sounds good. I'm like, great. We have something else to talk about 3 days from now. So it was just so funny that it was just the timing of it couldn't have been better.
So that brings me up to my first question, actually, which is like, what did Tam think? Because it's funny. I know that you guys are into vampires and stuff like that, but I don't put the Predator movies as like the top of Tam's list.
No, it's not. I wouldn't put it at the top of her list either, but the Alien series is big time at the top of her list. Like she loves all things xenomorph and aliens. And so I think like she's watched all of them, including the Predator versus Alien kind of crossover film. So I think it was partly that, but also just because it was, a different take on Predator. It wasn't just another Predator hunting another human. The whole thing is about the human not dying to the Predator and killing them. And I think she was just tired. So maybe she was tired enough that she didn't care. But overall, I think we both, it wasn't amazing cinema, but it was pretty entertaining. Like I finished it thinking, this would have been neat on the big screen. This would have been a cool watch.
Yeah, definitely a cool ride. Like it's definitely an action
that's a good way to put it.
It harkens to its roots. Like it harkens to the action films of the 80s that were sci-fi, where there was a monster and there was a mission or an adventure that you had to go on, and anything that can go wrong will go wrong, sort of deal. And even like something as scripted as like he's on a planet where absolutely everything is out to kill you. Everything. And it's so convoluted, it's corny, but it somehow still works because it's Predator. Like there's enough about the franchise that you kind of accept a lot of this stuff. And I felt that they set the tone pretty well early on. And I can tell you where I knew the kind of film that I was in for was he's on the planet, Deck, the main character, the main Predator that we're following. He's on the main planet, and this will be full of spoilers, by the way, people, just FYI.
Fair warning.
Yeah. Because I think it's worth watching, and I think, especially if you're a fan of this kind of stuff, and I don't want to spoil some of these little character moments. So, like, just if you are going to go watch it, come back. after you watched it. But he's on the planet having just crash landed and lost a bunch of stuff and barely survived his first encounter, and he's like taking a rest. And he's getting some water, and there's a bug on a leaf next to him, and the thing goes from green to like bright pink and puffy, and he just kind of like, you can see him think about what just happened with plants that attacked him. And he looked at this thing changing rapidly and starting to hiss. And he thought, you know what? No, I'm just not going to. And so he picks it up and he throws it. And the moment that he touches it, it starts to like smoke. And it lands, I don't know, a couple 100 yards down the stream and blows up like a really robust hand grenade, which would have been problematic had it been right next to him. And for the first time ever, you got to see a grown predator go, huh. And I was just like, okay, this is going to be interesting.
On that note, I found like the facial expressions that they had for him were phenomenal, because he wasn't behind the mask that you usually have predators hiding behind, and you could see his eyes were doing a lot of communicating. I thought that was really, so I don't know how much of that was the actor or how much of that is the CGI or the capture of the actor for the CGI, but I thought it was really, really well done.
So Demetrius Schuster Kolomentangi is the name of the actor. He is a stunt performer as well as an actor, and he is 7'3". He's a big lad, and so he was in the full costume, like he was in the suit, and the face is a combination of prosthetics and motion capture. So they would have had him in one of those like rigs that that they use for the Hulk and Thanos and that kind of stuff.
Right.
And then they would have overlaid the two. Because I feel like at some points, I know that the mandibles were animated, but I feel like his actual face, like the inner jaw that has more of a normal kind of humanesque jaw, even though it's got pointed teeth, I feel like that was really him with teeth in or something close to it. But his eyes are definitely his. I've seen some behind the scenes photos where he's got the contacts in. And so he was doing that.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And you're right. And that's 100% what it is. And it's weird because it's the first time we're seeing a predator emote beyond growling, aggression, or yelping in pain because they got stabbed or something, which sounds remarkably similar to growling and aggression. Like it's not that nuanced. But this was, which I thought was really interesting because his brother dies in the first few minutes of this film as they're setting it up. He's obviously emotional about that. He has some softer moments later on in the film. He has some pensive and thoughtful moments. There's that moment where I just mentioned with the slug that explodes, where before that happens, he was actually kind of like, you can see the predator actually taking in his surroundings as opposed to just like robotically looking around. And then you get like a cut to like the infrared scan. And that is supposed to tell you that he's scanned the environment and now he knows everything. So he will be the ultimate predator. In this, he didn't have any of that stuff. He didn't have his gear. He didn't have a cloak. Part of the whole process of this coming of age story is that he does not yet have a cloak because he hasn't earned it yet.
Right.
And so you can see him assessing the situation. Like how do I kill this thing? How do I not die to this thing? How do I prevail? And that happens over and over again in the film, which I thought was really cool.
And one of the things I did like, I guess, just building on what you said a little bit, he didn't have a lot of the equipment because I thought it was a good setup too. He was on a ship that had all of that equipment, but he had to eject from the ship in a crash landing. So he was basically landed in his like whatever the little pod was that he was in that had basically a stripped down set of weapons. So he was even worse off. So he was worse off than he would have been if he had landed in the ship. So if he landed, he would have had access to multiple swords, multiple explosives, multiple things. So he would have been very much, there would have been a higher chance that he was very much like one of the predators that we're used to seeing. So this need to eject even, well, I guess gave us a more unique view of what these characters do when they're not, just completely maxed out in weapons and whatnot. So I thought that was an interesting choice as well.
And then of course he meets the Thea, the android from To go back to your Alien crossover, the Wayland Yutani Corporation, which is from the Aliens worlds.
Yep.
So he finds this synthetic, and at first I thought it was really interesting how he turns down any help because one, he just thought, well, this person is obviously dying in a nest of a giant vulture dinosaur thing, but he then realizes later on that she's not alive, like she's a synthetic, and so he's like, oh, you're not a real person, you're a thing, you're a tool. That's not cheating.
Yeah.
I can use a tool. You're just like a knife or a gun or anything else. And I thought that was a really interesting take. It then quickly folded into some odd comedy that I wasn't a big fan of. Like some of the one-liners were great, but I felt that they tended just really ham-fist a lot of them. There's a montage of him running across the landscape with her just non-stop talking and asking all these questions about the Yautja, which is what the alien race is called for the Predators, which I didn't know.
It's okay. I was going to ask you, like, that's the first time we were introduced to the
I
Yautja,
think so. I want to say that information has probably been out there if you read the comics or if you are part of like the greater Predator universe. But as far as the films go, the Predators never talk. I don't think that I've seen anything related to Predator dialogue or text or language translated in any of the films. Now, I've seen all of the films. The first two I've seen a number of times because I watched those a lot as a teenager, but I've not seen the more recent Predator films more than maybe once, maybe twice.
Wonder if they had any mention of it in the Killer of Killers. Like just
sometimes
they would have like, because they would have the sort of a little screen pop up between the different stories.
Oh, maybe.
So I wonder if there was any.
I thought the same thing, that there might be more there, but I don't know. It's interesting because like they're not exactly what you would think. Like Deck is not necessarily a name that I would think of for a Predator. Like it seems they've gone very tribal with them. That was something that I thought was a little bit lackluster for me. Like as much fun as the planet was, where he was for most of the movie, where he crash lands, the Predator homeworld, which was very similar to what it was in the Predator Killer of Killers series that we watched, was really sparse. And for as technologically advanced as they are, it felt very strange that it was so sparse and so caveman-like. It didn't really...
What do they eat?
Yeah, like it didn't really fit. You would have thought that the Predator homeworld would be something where there'd be lots of lush things and animals to hunt. But then again, I don't know, maybe they hunted the whole place clean. Like maybe that's the problem, is that they've disrupted the ecosystem so much that it's now a dust ball because they've killed everything. I don't know. We don't really know any of that information. But I did find, I feel like the criticisms that you and I had of the third short in the Predator Killer of Killers series held true for my assessment of all of the encounters on the Predator homeworld in this film too. It just felt bleak and stilted and very not scripted, but it felt strangely ceremonial without any real, I don't know. It didn't have the same level of suspense that I think they wanted it to. Whereas I felt like the planet had a lot more intrigue going on. I should be intrigued when I'm looking at the Predator homeworld for the first time in live action. My eyes should be going everywhere, going, what is that? Who does like? I wasn't. It's like when you go to Wakanda for the first time. Your eyes are just like, what is this? And this was like, so it's Dune with pointy things. Like it wasn't at all.
Yeah, for the most part, it was two scenes. One where he's fighting his brother at the beginning, and then it's basically on that cliff where the ship was before it took off, and then it's almost like he comes back to that land on the same cliff. So you don't really get to see much. So I agree that there wasn't enough awe-inspiring, or not necessarily awe-inspiring, but there wasn't really much interesting going on about the planet at all. And even for that, it's like not interesting, but we're only going to show you two tiny parts of the planet twice, kind of thing. So
yeah, no, I agree.
I did like Elle Fanning as Thea and her kind of duplicate Tessa. I felt like she played them uniquely enough to be two clearly different characters, but I don't know. Having just watched the Alien Earth not too long ago, you've got the the what's it called again? The Weyland-Yutani Corporation. Okay, I guess it doesn't really matter what corporation they're with, but they're synths, which means they're completely synthetic. And I felt, as much as I kind of liked her performance, if you want to get technical, she shouldn't have been, as Thea, she shouldn't have been emoting as much as she did. I felt like the Tessa version was truer to what a synth would have been.
I thought at some point, and I don't remember the exact dialogue, but I feel like there was something about Thea that was broken. Like I feel like she was malfunctioning.
Yeah, she kind of had that synth weird distorted voice thing multiple times. So she was clearly battered. She was
but I feel like the emotional attachment to the animals was part of her problem because they were there to harvest, catalog, retrieve, exploit. Like they weren't there to preserve. Whereas she found a beauty in this world that they were on, and I don't believe Tessa did. And there was something, I don't know whether it's because like it struck me as, and this is my own kind of like retcon idea, was that the level of intelligence that they were trying to achieve in the synths was too complicated for one synth to have. And so I think that I'm if I go back and watch it, I'm pretty sure all of the synths were twins. Like I think they all had like a pair. And so I kind of wonder whether the referring to her as her sister, which she seems to come to as like an epiphany during the movie. It wasn't like it's something she always said. It was like something she said for the first time to Deck and goes, yeah, actually, she's kind of like my sister.
I think Deck said it to her.
Oh, did he? Okay.
He lost his brother. Yeah, he lost his brother, and he said something to her about her sister, and then she's like, wow, yeah, I have a sister.
Yeah, I kind of feel like she has more of the emotional side, and then Tessa had more of the analytical side, and I kind of feel like some of the other... It's impression, because they don't really have much dialogue, but some of the other synths felt very robotic, but then I feel like they also seemed to work in unison. Like they had to talk to one another. They weren't all connected in a hive mind, but there was some tandem stuff that seemed to be happening with them. So anyway, I thought it was cool.
Formation.
I thought it was cool. I feel like by the time the movie was over, I thought, okay, I've had a really fun ride, but it started to then get dialed back and lose points for me because it started to feel, as different as it started to feel not so different. And I'm curious if you picked up on this, because as big of fans of Star Wars as we are, especially in the last scene, it really felt like the anti-hero standing victorious, but not really free of struggle, with a chattering droid sidekick and a large, aggressive, loyal bodyguard companion. Like it was Han Solo, C-3PO, and Chewbacca, like in different skins. It was very, very strange. I immediately saw the parallels. Like this is, and I mean, again, it's not bad, but it's not really Predator either. So it's this weird amalgamation of other sci-fi tropes brought into the franchise as they try to flesh this out. And I think it would be impossible to give the Predators world building, a language, and a culture without borrowing from sci-fi over the last 50 years. Like it's bound to happen, right? So it didn't feel like it was a copy. It just felt like here's some stuff that works. Here's things that I'm a fan of. I'd like to put them in this movie, and I'd like to have Deck go on this kind of journey. So for me, I think that, and I felt that the Kalisk was a little bit too cartoony for me. The big monster that they fight on the planet.
Cartoony in like visual presentation, or just
not the CG was a little bit wonky, but not terrible. It was more the design. Like it had huge eyes, and it was, even when they eventually realized that the Kalisk baby was the little, I can't remember the name of it, but the little
Bud.
Yeah, that was dumb too. The little, he's about the size of a dog, and he starts to follow Deck around and mimic him. He's like a monkey. And you realize at some point that he's actually the offspring of the Kalisk. He's a Kalisk baby. But the Kalisk is so big that you don't really think that the baby would be that small. Anyway, the Kalisk, once you get a good look at it, it really is just a bigger version of the very cute Bud. And you're just like, this thing is like ripping people's arms off, and like it's this huge apex predator, or so it is advertised throughout the film, and then it ends up being King Kong basically, and it's not quite what I was expecting. And I think the big eyes and the cuteness factor of it, not the cuteness, but like the appeal, the general appeal of it, made it feel a lot less like a monster, which again was probably intentional and part of the point, but it didn't really land well with me. It felt very strange. And again, I thought from a character point of view that Dek realizing that the monster and the alpha predator on that planet was not the Kalisk, but it was Tessa, and he switches targets. That's an interesting character arc for Dek.
Yeah.
But not necessarily something I would expect a predator to do. And so in that light, it could be more like, it could be a way to bring more interest into the predator culture. Is Dek going to be an offshoot? He has his own clan now. He's not really part of the predator culture anymore. He's something else entirely. Is that evolution? Is that defection? Like, what is that? And I don't know what that is. So it's interesting. So it's not good or bad. It's just different.
Well, I think it's good in the sense that I feel like you almost need that if you're going to have a predator as a protagonist.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would have been just really, really boring if they were just full on mission, not observing anything, got to kill this at all costs. And basically, he would have used Thea as the tool, disregarded her, killed the baby, done what he could to kill he wouldn't have been able to kill the adult Kalisk. It's just, it would have been pretty short. So, I mean, I think, they need to do it just, again, you got to have a relatable character. So if the goal is to continue to have predators as the protagonist, it's going to have to be either other ones will sort of realize, hey, I want a droid friend and a pet too. Maybe that's what I got to do. But I don't know. Or he's going to just continue to be the only one. And the whole thing ended off with his, now he's got to deal with his mother. So who knows what that follow-up story is going to be, if they're going to do a sequel or not. But it seems like it set it up for.
Well, with the Weyland-Yutani Corporation crossover, that sets it up for potential Alien and Predator movie in this new era of Dan Trachtenberg directing stuff or producing. He may not direct all of it, but like if he's like showrunner on these new Predator franchise movies, then he makes good movies. Like there's the cinematography and the action and the story by and large was pretty good. So I'm on board for anything that has Predator and Trachtenberg attached to it. Like, I'm curious. The ending did kind of rub me the wrong way in terms of, it felt like it ended about 4 times. Like, I feel like we had a resolution and we had a comeback. Then we had another resolution. Then we had, oh, wait a minute, that's the resolution on this planet. He still has to go back and confront his dad. And then that went on for a little bit too long. And there's just a lot of stuff where I felt that it wasn't, I don't know, it just felt a little bit like a run-on ending. And I feel like there's been something recently that has done this as well, but I don't remember what it was.
Stranger Things?
You know what? Stranger Things. That's probably what it was. And then the final part with It's My Mother kind of cliffhanger. It didn't end like a movie. It ended like a comic book, which in a way is kind of fitting for Predator. Like that's kind of what because it's like the general plot lines until recently with this particular movie. The plot lines of Predator are never to be continued because the whole idea is that the prey has to beat the predator. Otherwise, it's a different movie altogether, right? So the Predators always end, and the movie or franchise continues with a different predator, not the same one. We could potentially see a movie with Dek in it again, right? I could see a situation where because he's broken their code of conduct or something, that they send a predator to kill Dek. And that's a thing that they've done before. I don't remember which one, but one of the Predator movies, there is a predator assassin sent to kill a predator because the predator had been captured or was defective or something. And I don't know if that was necessarily explained very well in the movie, but the internet and around, like a discussion around the movie, explains that's what's going on. And again, it's probably people bringing stuff in from comics and other pop culture situations.
Right.
But yeah, it's like there's more to the Predator culture than we know as just movie watchers, especially casual ones of the franchise. And I've not watched the original recently, but I did watch someone react to it recently, and that's a treat. Watching somebody that is too young to have even known this movie existed watch it for the first time, especially because it was made in the 80s, was hilarious. Like, they did not know what was going on. Like, there's just muscles everywhere and bad one-liners. And so in a way, like, some of the jokes in this are on track with the franchise. Like, there's a lot of bad one-liners in these movies and stuff like that. So yeah, it's I think it's still worth watching, especially because it's now streaming on for me it's on Disney Plus, and for in Canada I'm not sure where. I mean, if it's on Disney Plus, it's probably Disney Plus worldwide. At least Canada and the US, it would be on Disney Plus, because I think it's part of the Hulu expansion. But yeah, I quite liked it. I thought most of the effects stood up. I have a lot of questions, but I think that they are interesting questions as opposed to eye-rolling situations,
Yeah, and definitely an entertaining watch for sure.
Moving on to the Internet Minute, the Citadel Cafe is 100% listener supported. If you're getting value out of the show, please consider putting a little bit of value back in. You can become a member at patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe. Joining at any level will get you an invite to the member-only Discord server and access to the Barista Cut bonus audio, the extended version of the podcast. Special thanks to our Bean Counter patrons, EclipseRM and Smurf588. Thank you so much for your support of this episode. Patron count is at 18. That is steady on from January. If you would like to become patron number 19, visit patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe. Well, it's fitting that we were talking about The Mandalorian and Grogu at the top of the show, because my pick this week is an hour-long YouTube video from Adam Savage Tested on YouTube. Adam Savage and animatronic engineer Matthew Winchell have taken it upon themselves to create a custom Grogu puppet, animatronic, the full kit, and to turn those motions and expressions into a believable character, Adam brings on puppeteer Michael Shoop-Patch, or Shoop for short, for a consultation and guidance that happens live in this hour-long video. It is really cool to see what the team at Tested is trying to put together, because on set, the Grogu puppet has like 4 to 6 puppeteers. They are trying to make this something that they can control with one puppeteer. And it's all remote control. They switch the different controls on it live on this video. And then hearing Shoop go in and talk about the insight that he brings to it, the differences between having something on set where the shot is king versus they're trying to make this thing so it kind of moves in the round. So I think the idea is that, I mean, Adam in the video says he wants to do like a little kind of money shot with it, like on film. But I also think that they might want to take it around to a convention at some point, at which point people would be walking behind it and in front of it and to the side of it. And I think that they kind of want it to have that kind of Disneyland level of Imagineering to it. And the level of technology, the amount of engineering that is in this, they strip it down. They don't take the head off, but they take the cloak off so you can see all the different gears and how everything works inside of it. It's pretty ingenious. Right. And where you and I have watched the series and are looking forward to the movie, it is really cool to see what they can do. Now, granted, obviously, Adam Savage and his team have a lot of expertise. They have the money to put into this kind of stuff. And I'm jealous. When I see stuff like this, it makes me like, if I had a house where I could have a proper work bench and like a proper workshop, like a garage or something, I would definitely get into building more stuff, because just like Lego, this kind of stuff really intrigues me, and I would do it just for fun. Like I can't ever see myself being much of a cosplayer, but would I roll through Halcon with a remote control baby Grogu or a remote control Wally? Yes, I would.
Yeah, heck yeah. Oh, Wally, good call. That would be a good one.
That's the other video I watched. I had to pick one.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, Savage does both. You're not. This is your surprised face. You're not surprised.
Very cool. I'll have to check that out.
So, what's your pick this week?
Mine is actually there's a video that just popped up in like YouTube Shorts as I was scrolling by, and I don't even, sometimes you mention something and your phone's listening, and so it pops up, but I don't even know where this came from. But it was the Uniball Kuru Toga. It's a self-sharpening mechanical pencil. So basically, you have to click the back of it to get the lead out like normal, but as you write with it, every time you push down with the lead and then lift your pencil back up, so if you're doing short individual strokes or parts of letters, it actually takes it and then rotates it ever so slightly so that it changes the edge you're writing with, so it never ever gets a flat edge along the side. So when you just have a new lead and it's flat on the bottom and you write and it's got that sharp edge to it, and eventually it'll wear down and be flat. This is constantly rotating around. So for the first tiny bit, you'll have the sharp edge of a brand new piece of lead, but for the rest of it, it's just constantly keeps it at a point, and this blows my mind. And so I've been on the fence as to whether I want to get it for myself or not, because there's a really nice metal one for I think around $35, but it's this basically this mechanical pencil that will keep the point virtually identical for the entire time you write with it.
This is really cool, and unfortunately would be completely lost on me because of my years as a cleanup artist in animation and learning on paper, and years of drawing on paper and inking comics. I rotate my pencil without even thinking about it. When I do a cleanup line, the next, it's stroke, rotate pencil. I used to do it when I was first learning to draw with a Wacom stylus. I used to do it with the stylus too, but then I had to stop because then the rocker button is like under your thumb, right? Like if the rocker button on the stylus, you can't do it with the stylus, right? And so for the longest time, when I have a pencil in my hand, I rotate it like absent-mindedly. It's muscle memory. I don't even think that I'm doing it because otherwise you have to sharpen your pencil every 10 seconds.
Yeah.
This is really cool though. I like a really good weighted mechanical pencil, like a good metal pencil. Like the plastic stuff drives me nuts.
Yeah, me too.
But like a good metal utensil is great for drawing.
Yeah, you can get, apparently they've got this kind of lead rotating technology in a few other plastic ones that are around $9, another one that's 16 or something, and they look decent, but it's just like, sometimes, as you were saying, you get that one writing or drawing utensil that just feels like this is just a treat to hold, well balanced, the materials feel great in your hand, and you just want to use it all the time. So it's like, it's 35 or 36 US, I should say, as well, so it's probably around a $50 pencil. So that's why I'm a little bit more on the fence. And so I just did a little bit of freelance work a little while ago, so I've got money in my some play money in my account that I could get it with, but $50 is a lot. If I could see it in the store and play with it first, then go, yep, that's the one, before ordering it. But
there may be a stationery store locally that you could go get it and go try something similar.
Yeah, or maybe at the very least maybe they've got one I can try for the mechanism to see if the mechanism works, and I go, this is brilliant. Now I want the really nice one that has that mechanism. But maybe that's a good point. Maybe that's what I should do, because that's the appeal of it to me, because the metal pencil is nice, but I'm not going to spend $50 on a mechanical pencil that's just a mechanical pencil. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe test the mechanism first and then go for that. Then commit.
Well, that wraps up this episode of the Citadel Cafe. You can find more information about the show and links to some of the things that Stephen and I talked about at thecitadelcafe.com. Music for the show was composed by Kevin MacLeod. You can email us at thecitadelcafe@gmail.com or find the show by name on social media. Subscribe for free on all major podcasting platforms, including YouTube. The RSS feed is in the show notes, available on our website, thecitadelcafe.com. Word of mouth is the easiest way to support the show. Just tell a friend about the Citadel Cafe and where they can go to listen to it. My name is Joel Duggan, and I will point you towards my other podcast, The Spawn Chunks, which is all about Minecraft, available on all major podcasting platforms on Mondays, as well as the spawnchunks.com. Follow me on social media at Joel Duggan and Joel Duggan on Twitch, where I stream Tuesday through Friday at 9, Saturdays at 1, focusing on Minecraft right now and the ginormous command center that is consuming my life. But it's cool, I promise. It's just really, really big, so it's taking a long time to build. Steven, where can people find you online?
Blue Sky at StevenESC, or on Mastodon at StevenESC@mstdn.ca.
You've been listening to the Citadel Cafe, where we are fast, easy, and cheap, but you can only pick two.